Hi, this is Damien from AtHope, and I am an axiological atheist, which can be simply understood as a value theory or a value science atheist, or understood as simply I'm an axiologist, which is a value theorist, and I'm also an atheist. And today, for our show, I have a special guest. Could you go ahead and tell us your name and what wonderful things you're doing?
My name is Terrell. I'm a licensed social worker, and my passion is to spread self-compassion throughout the world.
Wonderful. I like self-compassion. I think that some people only think that they do actions outside and they really forget to deal with what's going on inside. And so could you, I know you have a new book and it looks really exciting. Could you tell us about that?
I was inspired to write the book actually by my son. I grew up in a Quaker family where you're supposed to do for others, take care of everybody else, put your needs aside. And my son is adopted, and many years ago, 5 years ago, we were going through a difficult time in our relationship. And we were driving in my car, and he said, "You know what I hate the most about you, Dad?" And I said, "What's that, buddy?" He said, "You take away all my pain, rescue me, be happy." And I said, "Yes, of course." He looked at me and said, "You can't do it. Leave me alone. I got to deal with my own stuff." I was stunned. Nobody ever told me that. And I looked at him, sort of in amazement. And I said, what should I do? So why don't you worry about yourself? Why don't you stop worrying about everybody else? He said, you think you're like Gandhi. And I wasn't too insulted by that reference. But I did what he said. I did what he suggested. I started being my own best friend. I started doing the stuff I like to do. I started taking the time I needed for myself to go to the woods or meditate, whatever I needed to do. And maybe most importantly, I took a step back from trying to rescue everything else. And what I found, and this is sort of my life-changing epiphany I want to share with the world, what I found is I did not become selfish. I had abundance, developed an abundance of love, positive energy, serenity, goodwill I can pass on to others. And so my mission in life, really the last 5 or 6 years, is I wrote this book, I do blogs, I talk about self-compassion, book signings, I talk to my clients about it, anybody who will listen. And many times the reaction is, well, isn't that selfish, as I said earlier? And I say to them, well, it's selfish to be selfish. It's selfish to take somebody's stuff or impose your rights on them or deprive them of their rights. There's something selfish about being your own best friend.
Oh, I agree with that.
Knowing you're worthwhile. Nothing selfish about taking good care of yourself. And it just continues to grow exponentially in my own life. And the thing I love about what you stand for is this isn't about occasionally practicing self-love and acting with abundance. This is using every moment on this earth to emanate good, positive, caring feelings. It doesn't mean I'll take care of myself. I try to be compassionate, but I also believe in discerning compassion. If I only have $10 to my name, it doesn't make sense to give it all away to somebody else. So self-compassion has changed my life.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think that's a thing. I when I first saw it, it's funny. I didn't think of it as selfish. When I saw your stuff about self-compassion, what I thought is wonderful. Finally, someone else is talking about this, because people wonder how is it that I went from, I'm a high-functioning sociopath that experienced extreme abuse as a child, and religious oppression and abuse also, and I came out of that from really, in a sense, a toxic environment, and I grew up around I was born in Long Beach, but I grew up in Orange County, but down near Los Angeles, for people that don't know, in California, and it was a lot of violence, I had friends get killed and go to jail for murder, and it was just and it's like, how did I get to the place that I could be better? Someone was kind to me when I felt I didn't deserve it. And I try to think about the self-compassion the same way when you said that, is that I can be nice to myself and caring about myself even if I'm not doing actions always that I approve of. In other words, if I can't be the best of me, doesn't mean that I start picking on myself,
You can be loving and forgiving. I talk to myself all day long. If I mess up, I say, that's okay, buddy. Just don't do it next time. So many times people say to me, I'm not hard on myself, I'm just going to repeat my negative actions. So you don't need to beat up on yourself to become your best self. It doesn't absolve you of responsibility. You don't have the right to join a racist skinhead group or rob a bank or take your neighbor's lawnmower. It's not about that. But people that are genuinely self-compassionate and loving and abundant don't do bad things, Carolyn. So it's recognizing what we need to work on. It's growing into our best self, but we don't need to beat up on ourselves to do that. In fact, when we're drowning on our own shame, we're less likely to be a resource because we're self-absorbed. I don't judge people that are drowning in shame. But if people are filled with so much shame, they go around mad all the time, they're not going to be able to focus on actually being a better person and making a business they first. So it's actually, even if we don't feel we deserve self-compassion, we actually owe it to everybody else because we're happier people. And again, I don't judge people that are unhappy. I'm a therapist. I'm not judging them. You're absolutely right. So what helped you in your evolution towards greater self-compassion? What were the keys for you?
I mean, I think it was just being honest with my own failure. Like in life, like that I, at the point that I wasn't liking the human I was, that I wasn't liking how I was thinking, how I was behaving. I didn't even know how to get better. I didn't even know where to look to get better. But I just came to the place that I became honest enough to go, something is really wrong. This is not how I'm going to... What's that? I said I realized that something is really wrong, that this is not how a good human should act. And I realized I was not being a good human. And I was like, it convicted me that I needed to be different. And then what I'm saying is, I realized all these, because I got an epiphany in a sense, like a realization. All these people in my life had done all these things to me. And all my life I had pointed fingers, them. And I never really looked at, but what am I doing? And what am I trying to do to make it different? What am I putting out in the world to combat that kind of stuff? And I just realized I want to make a difference in the world. I mean, because I realized I don't want another child to be abused like I was. I don't want another person to be afraid to go to school like I was. I don't want another person to go I went on a school field trip and I got jumped by a gang. It was some in my own actions and also just because of the area I was in. But I'm just saying, I don't want that kind of society. That's not okay with me. I want universal betterment. I don't want any more child soldiers and wars and child rape victims and I want all of it done. And that's like I was telling this one friend of mine, he was like, "Oh, you're just against war." And I said, "Well, I'm not peace. I'm for non-aggression." Which means that I only think that violence should be the last resort and it's still bad. But it should be only for self-defense and other defense. That's it to me. If you're not defending it, then violence to me is inherently just wrong. And I feel like even when we're defending, we should feel shameful in a sense because it's still wrong to do violence. So because I feel like people glorify, I'm justified. Imagine if we harmed every single person in our life that we felt justified. Wow, be a lot of people for me. But not right now because I have a lot more love in my heart, but especially in the past. Woo.
Absolutely.
And it reminded me too about kindness. It's like, do we give kindness because people deserve it? And if everyone deserved it, will we still call it kindness? I try to think that for me, kindness actually is the most beautiful when others don't deserve it.
Without a doubt. And of course, as people become more self-compassionate, spread love and abundance, they get so much back. People are attracted to them, people want to be around them, people look up to them, people want that energy. It can wear them out sometimes. That's why we have to be careful with how much energy we put out. We definitely have to be careful of that. The flip side of the situation, there's no downside. No downside.
No, I totally agree. In fact, even I do stuff every day. I try to write every day. I try to inspire people every day if possible because I really want to change the world. And I know that it can't be done in silence. We have to shout kindness from the rooftops. We have to be absolute champions of it because that's the only way it's going to be, heard enough so people can start changing. And we need to change the narrative that is somehow, like I talked to this one person, I said, to me, even like you were talking about selfishness, even if you're selfish, you should want kindness just think of all the acts of kindness we do every day, all the generosity, all the caring, all the thoughtfulness. I mean, if everyone was actually totally not caring, not thoughtful, imagine what the world would be. I mean, like you said before about, people would steal your lawnmower. People would violate you constantly because they wouldn't care. So I feel like we're almost doing naive kindness all the time. But what you are trying to do, and what I try to promote is that, but I want to do it with intentionality. I want to do it with it. It's a presence that we want to do, not just one action, but a life of it.
It's just doing more of the stuff we all know to do.
Exactly.
We all know to be, doing more of it. I went to a training by this guy, Rick Hintz, who wrote a book about rewiring the brain, the mood brain. And he said, we all know to appreciate the good things in our life. He said, just do more of it.
Right.
So driving home from that conference, it was down in Washington, D.C., 2.5-hour drive. I just appreciated everything, every time my heart beat. It may sound corny, but by the time I got home, I was floating after an hour. Just the trees, every bridge I crossed, I thought, wow, like somebody built a bridge. So we can do more of appreciation. But the self-compassion, there are deeper and deeper and deeper levels of it, I find. And it's really possible to get to the point where we just never judge ourselves negatively. We never, and I'm closer to that point than I've ever been. And I have no inclination to go rob a bank. I have no inclination to ridicule or mock or be racist or homophobic. No inclination. I'm not saying I'm a saint. I'm not saying I'm this Zen. I'm not saying I'm always my best self. But you have the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah.
The proof is just in the pudding. But, as you say, we have to do this stuff all the time. But if we're not feeding ourselves, we get burnt out. We all know if we're not, and there are many people say you have to love yourself to love people. I don't believe that.
I agree with you.
A lot of my clients are giving and kind and loving to everybody themselves. They have to feed themselves, obviously. And I say to them, do you feel like everybody in the world deserves love and kindness and goodwill? They say yes. I said, well, aren't you everybody? Exactly. But it's so hard, particularly women who are socialized to be chronic overgivers. Women are socialized not to be selfish. So many of my clients decide, hey, I want to go to the gym or whatever. And their husbands or other people say, you're selfish. I'm not busted on guys. I'm just saying there's a lot of pressure on women. That's the socially prescribed role. It's harder for women. It's harder for women. Now, there's probably people out there that need some sense of conscience to not do bad things. If somebody needs to feel guilty to not be a member of a white racist group, okay, fine, use the guilt. But hopefully we don't need to be driven not to do that by guilt. I don't mean to overstate the point. I just, it's so clear to me.
Well, and I agree. I would just, back that up that I'm in total agreement with all the stuff that you said. I mean, I always say, I can't stand when people say you can't love anyone else until, you love yourself. I don't think that's true. I agree with you. People do it all the time. And to me, also, I think it goes back to me, kindness and love to me in that way, what you're talking about generally is that you're referring to a behavior. It's a way of acting in the world where we're more attentive and thoughtful and compassionate and kind. But I think that I agree with you definitely. Also, I'm an anarcho-feminist, so I totally realize women's plight, and that's why I always say to me, it's not just making sure that women are free and equal in the streets; they have to be free and equal in the home. And so, and we can't get that point until we change the values. And so to me, that's why that the values like you bring up in your book. I just want to go ahead and talk about. Your a book about achieving self-compassion, giving yourself gifts of happiness and inner peace, and I do like the things that you focus on, about being one's own self, best friend. I mean, I think this is a great thing. Developing benefits, that work for you. I think that's so great because I think sometimes people try to do something they're not good at. Like, I mean, to me, I realized, when I was doing the schooling in psychology that I could do that, but what I felt a lot more passionate about writing and going out and doing stuff like right now. I mean, not like trying to later do clients. I was 7 classes in my master's and I was like, I don't know if I'll do this later. I don't know, but right now I need to do something else. Because I felt, once I did all that, I just felt like once I learned ethics and stuff in school, and I feel like that how they were presenting ethics wasn't super ethical to me. And I was like, okay, then I need to go make ethics in the world. I now know what I need to do. This is not exactly it. So like you're talking about, so I started realizing, wait, what are my real skills? And so I really love that, developing, what works for you, because what works for me does not work for everybody else.
And only we know that. And I have a chapter on taking great care of yourself. Nobody can tell us, after this interview is done, how would I possibly know what you need to do? Yeah. I might guess, well, get some you need or take a rest or whatever. We have to listen to our inner voice. Women in particular don't listen to that inner voice. But we know best. This is probably what I love about the positive self-talk, is we can tell ourselves things that we can talk with ourselves about things we're embarrassed about. Nobody else needs to even know about it. But it's that self-knowledge. It's deeply trusting yourself. I also have a chapter in there about being our authentic self. Our authentic self is a part of us that never changes. It's part of the whole mindfulness thing. We're not our thoughts and our reactions. That's changed my life profoundly, because I found this inner place that I call my authentic self. People have different names for it. Buddhists might call it enlightenment. There's different names for it. I'm not saying I'm in some enlightened phase here necessarily. But I love knowing there's a peaceful realm inside of me. I can go to it. I can transcend the outside world. The analogy I give a lot of my clients, people I talk with, is imagine you're on a boat on top of the ocean, the surface of the ocean. Most people's sense of themselves in their world and their life goes up and down based on the events.
Right.
So you're having a good day, the sun's out, you feel good. You're having a bad day, sharks are out. And I say, imagine transcending the outside world, delving deep into the ocean, the place of your inner peace, a place of your serenity. You may be aware of a storm on the outside, but you found that place. Ultimately, that's the heart of self-compassion. It's just finding an inner place you can always go to. The irony is, people often think, oh, that's so esoteric, I won't pay my bills, I won't get to work. The irony is, the paradox is, one of my epiphanies is, and you know this too, the more I'm at peace with myself, the more I get done what I need to do.
Yeah.
People that are frenetic and ruminating and depressed and anxious and angry and full of shame are less likely to make a dentist appointment. Are less likely to exercise or eat right or go to the doctor. So it's a place of serenity, that we can take great care of ourselves. The Buddhists talk about right action. You still do the right thing in the real world. It's great to feel like you're on cloud nine and you're blessed out up there sometimes. But you still got to mow the lawn and get your kids off to school.
True.
And whatever. So it's about that inner peace. So I have these different chapters, 11 portals in the book. We've covered most of them, But I think the one that my clients really struggle with the most is just going there inherently worthwhile. As you know, as you're talking about, kids are giving messages to the kid they're not worthwhile.
Oh,
definitely.
definitely.
Somebody else is using their kid. What 5-year-old is going to think unlovable and worthwhile? My parents are having a bad day. Kids internalize it.
Right.
We know survivors of sexual abuse and physical abuse blame themselves. That's what kids do. So they come into my therapy office, and I look at them right in the eye. I'm very direct. And I say, what would happen if you knew right now you're 100% worthy and worthwhile? And they say that would be a dream. And I look at them and I say, it's true. I can be pretty convincing.
Right.
And they're usually shocked. They don't know what to say. And the look they give me in their eye. Yeah. I had a woman, her eyes teared up, and she whispered, I want it. I say, well, try it on. I say, even if you feel you don't deserve self-worth, try it on for next week. If it leads you to stay in bed and not get out of bed, you can always come back to beating up on yourself unworthy. People never go back. Just try it on.
Yeah.
Just try it on. It's really powerful. It's really powerful. That's the heart of, how many people do bad things because of low self-worth? Even highly narcissistic individuals. Really deep down, how could you have self-worth and act like it? So these are the different portals, I talk about. Why do you think it's so hard to try on self-compassion? It's so difficult. Like I'm trying to get them to climb the Himalayan mountains on a skateboard.
Well, I think that the problem is that we start with an improper axiology. Axiology is the study of science of values, worth, goodness, benefit. Right. It's how you value judge things. It's used for truth, for science, whatever. But in a sense, to me, when you don't know how to accurately assess things in the world or in yourself, then you're not able to utilize tools. It's like we didn't know, let's just say about oil when there was just coal, and we didn't know about coal when there was just wood, to burn.
You don't know what you don't know.
Right. So in a sense, but it also, if we don't have the tools to go and look for it, like oil is not like always on the surface. So you have to be able to know how to dig down and find the riches. Same with diamonds or anything. I'm just saying it. I think that first off, it is to understand what is valuable, what could be potential in the world. Because, I mean, let's just say that I wish that tomorrow there would be no more rape. Well, that would be wonderful. I don't really think that ever in our entire, history of humanity is that going to happen. That would be great if it could.
Right.
And there certainly should be a goal to try to minimize it as much as possible because it's a violation of human dignity. But we have to live in the real world and know that that's going to happen.
If we can still fight it. I'm in a men's group meeting this last Saturday, and I met somebody for the first time. He said I'm depressed and angry all the time. I watch MSNBC, the political shows. He said Trump's being president has ruined my life. And he and I share the same core values. We share the same perspective on things. But I said to him, and I said it in a gentle way, I said, how's your anger helping? You can still fight for social justice. You can go to protest marches, and you can vote, and you can
get involved.
And I don't judge people that are angry. But I grew up, my dad would watch Walter Cronkite News every night and be mad. I don't want to be mad.
Exactly.
I don't want to let anybody take away my inner peace. They asked the Dalai Lama, look, the communist Chinese have just tried to destroy Tibetan culture. Why aren't you mad? And he said, well, they've taken everything. I'm not going to give my happiness. And I kind of feel like that. I'm not saying I'm always blissful, but I'm saying I don't want to give anything outside of me that power. If people often think that if we're unhappy, it shows that we're caring. And one of the things I talk about in my book is you can be unhappy about rape. That's not stopping rape, right? You're better off fighting for whatever, men's awareness or more police patrols or counseling women on how to
all the above.
All of them.
Yeah.
And you can do it from a place of peace and a place of love. And again, I'm not judging people that are mad. I used to be a lot more like that. But we're actually freed up. The people that have changed the world don't go around mad all the time. They just don't.
Yeah, for me about anger, I stopped seeing anger as a good thing or a bad thing. I just started seeing it as an alarm system, like when I feel it. An internal alarm system that tell me something has happened that I need to investigate. Not even that I should own the anger that I'm feeling, because maybe it's not really anger. Sometimes anger just covers fear. It could cover some other sort of an emotional feeling. And so to me, I don't assume that just because I feel anger, well, then it must be just anger. I think, there's anger. Why do I have that?
And that's the mindfulness. That's beautiful, stepping back. And I agree with you. I'm thinking a lot about this lately because I've been talking to a lot of my clients about anger. Maybe just think of it as awareness. Don't allow your limbic system to fire up.
Exactly.
When your limbic system starts firing off like
emotional hijacking.
You say, okay, maybe I need to do something about this. Just like a toothache, you have to call the dentist. You don't stick with the toothache. I'm often curious, is it possible to live a life where we're never angry? I mean, certainly I feel moral outrage. Some kid gets shot in the back. I'm not suggesting, the Florida shooter. I'm not suggesting there aren't times when I just feel like sick feeling in my stomach. For sure. But the flip side is, again, as I said, I don't need to be angry to do something about it. And I would never say la-di-da. Somebody comes to my office and they've been victimized by a crime. I would be happy. That would be insensitive. When I'm working with trauma survivors, you have to hear them out. You have to validate their pain. So you can be sensitive and supportive. But at some point, I also say to them, let me know when you're at the point when you don't want to let the negative feelings of the trauma run your life anymore. It could be 20 years. And Lexapro and Prozac and Xanax can help, sure, along with meditation and writing and whatever. But I'm curious if it's possible to really live without anger. I don't know. It's been around for a long time, for sure.
Well, like I said, for me, I'm not trying to eliminate anger. In other words, I can't, like you're talking about the rape. I see it in a sense the same way. I don't think we can get outside of this. It's a reactionary response to external or internal, events in a sense. External real events and then mental events, going on because we think about ruminate or whatever. So to me, the fact that we're doing that though doesn't mean that we can't choose to do otherwise. It's like just think that if every thought that you had of, let's just say, harming someone, you didn't stop yourself at the thought, there would be a lot of people in jail, or a lot of people that have harmed or killed people. I mean, it would be horrific. So I think that like you said before, but we do stuff that's good all the time. I agree. We naively do stuff. Like I said, what we're talking about is moving past the naive goodness to intentional goodness, to intentional, not harming others.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it quite in that way, because there's a distinction between sort of your distinction. Everybody needs to be nice. You learn that in kindergarten, and making a conscious effort every single day.
Yes, I think that is the difference between a really kind person, and one that generally doesn't. Is that it's that real intentionality. I try to see that for me, I feel like people live in their phenomenology. For me, I see it like when the sense of self, like if you said I am, the I for me is like a phenomenological bubble that stretches and moves. We feel like, to me, I feel like people feel like it's a fixed thing. There's an I that starts in childhood, never changes, and becomes this I now. It's ridiculous. To me, it's like we're like sand in the bottom of an ocean. The waves go, all the sand moves. The waves go, all the sand moves again.
Yes, absolutely.
So I try to say that, to me, the I in a sense is the sand. So the sand didn't come a tree, but boy, do we not change a lot throughout our lives, swooshing back and forth depending on experience and events, depending on mood, emotions. I mean, it's just all over the place. So to me, I try, like you're talking about, this reminds me of the authentic self. And for me, I realized the authentic self is in the present moment, because there is no such thing as authentic self.
Well, let me ask you, do you feel like inherent part of you that's never changed? If you look at a picture of yourself when you're 5 or you're 10, you're an essence, an inner Damien, an inner realm that you can connect. Now, whatever people have their
well, like I said, I would say that you're talking about like my creativity or my memories. What do you I'm trying to understand what you mean by inner.
That's Damien. A part of you, your life situation changes,
right? Yes.
Thoughts change, your health changes.
True. Everything's got. So I'm saying, to me, I realized everything is constantly staying. That's why I say in the present moment to be authentic now. So
that's part of it.
Yeah.
That's part of it. And that may be what works for you, and I try to do that too.
Yeah.
When I looked at a picture of myself when I was 10 years old, there's an innate sense of innateness. I can't put it into words. It's an inner realm of who I am that transcends all of that. And I like that feeling, and it's partly my values, my core, my energy, etc. But it's beyond that. But it doesn't really matter how we get to this place of peace. And simply in the moment. When we're in the moment, we are our authentic selves.
Yeah.
So we're not driven by our rumination. We can appreciate things. If you look at 3-year-old kids at a preschool playing on the playground, majority of the time they're not overthinking. They're just in that moment.
Yeah.
We're our authentic selves when we're in that moment, when we're spontaneous. A lot of my clients maybe have social anxiety. So they go to a bar to meet somebody, and they meet somebody, and all of a sudden in their mind they're thinking, you're not good enough. They don't like all the self-talk. The whole point of a lot of self-compassion, I think, one of the most basic elements, is to do what you're doing. When we're in the moment, we're self-compassionate. We're taking care of ourselves. We're not being self-critical. We have a liveliness about us.
Right.
We have an ability to enjoy things.
Exactly.
Now, somebody might think that's just enjoying rather than self-compassion. But when we rid ourselves of our inner demons, we can see the world. Like, think of the guy at the shore on vacation. His kids want him to build a sandcastle, right? Building the sandcastle, but he's really thinking about paying his taxes, or he's really,
right.
Whatever. He's not there in that moment. So our lack of self-compassion, I think, is what blocks us from being there, right?
Yes.
Our inner demons come out.
No, I agree with you. Like I said, I like your stuff, just like I like the fact that you said eliminating negative reactions. I always say that even though my ideas, my thinking may not be logical, my behavior should be.
Well, exactly. And
So
behavior, we rewire our brains. Literally, as you know, you're a very smart man. You've read a lot more than I have. We know that every single time we get mad, the synapses, our brain closes. It's just like you're driving a path in the snow. Every single time you're tracking a lever. People that choose not to be mad, the anger part of their brain the neurons grow farther apart. They can prove that now. So one of my biggest fears is, I turned to my dad. My dad had a bad temper. And a couple of years ago, I got really angry with my son about something, and I responded to that in an angry, negative way. And I was so shaken by that experience. I just lay on the couch and I cried, and I decided I'm never going to be angry again.
Wonderful.
With my son. And so he would say provocative things, and my son's an awesome young man. He's a good soul. I adore my son. I'm doing anything for my son, right? Without a doubt.
Right on.
Like, profoundly. But when we adopted him when he was 9, he used to say provocative stuff. He came with a lot of positive things. Like, so when it got to he would say stuff, and I'd be like, I love you, buddy. It's going to be okay. It's like I didn't become a lightning rod for his anger anymore. And as my behavior changes, so right, it only takes a second not to get caught in that anger cycle. Take a step back. I call it go to the balcony.
Yeah.
So imagine you caught up some drama on the stage. You've heard the phrase that you go up to the balcony and look down. You detach, even for a millisecond. You lose the thread of that, and it makes us so much more effective. Because somebody can come at us in an angry way. Somebody was changing my wife's tire a couple of years ago, and they saw my Obama bumper stickers, and they started using the N-word and yelling, screaming, shout. I just stayed deadly calm. I just looked at them and I said, you have no right to come onto my property with this racism. He wanted to engage his pain body, his hate, his anger. He wanted to engage. He was shouting. He started jumping up and down on one foot. And I just looked at him completely calm. And I said, finish the tire. And I said, if you're done, I'm going to call AAA and get you fired. He said, you can't do that. I said, yes, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I wasn't a little shaken up. First of all, I could have been dangerous. I wasn't scared of him. I wasn't going to give him my peace of mind. I wasn't going to let him take away my peace of mind. I still went and called AAA. He was fired in a week, at least I hope. I don't mean to sound like I'm a saint. I'm not saying I never get angry. But it's so powerful when we don't respond in that way. It's freedom. It's emotional freedom. I feel like I'm an eagle. Like I love visualizations. Mm-hmm. I feel like the trees are our angst, our anger. If I'm flying, I'm sorry. You ever look at an eagle soaring in the sky? Yes. They're picking their spots. They come into the forest when they need something. I'm not saying we should all be predatory, but they're picking their spots, and that's what I visualize. Are there visualizations you use in that same way?
To manage my anger and to see myself. I try to change my perception of what I'm doing. Yes. I try to see myself in odd ways that other people tend to not. Like I feel like I'm a real leader, just the kind of this persuasion I have, but I realize that that's not an arrogancy. That is actually a call to responsibility. Exactly. That reminds me of the Spider-Man thing where it says, that those that are given much, power, that comes much responsibility. And I think that for me, I envision that the more that I feel like that I am a leader or that I am, being listened to, that the more I'm responsible for what I say. And then I don't want to just mean that I can say anything I want, but that I realize the responsibility for me personally is that it may make a difference. That what I am doing is the goal is human flourishing. I'm not like it's not. I always try to tell people, for me, it's not a specific thing. Because there's so much need. I remember this one person said, "Oh, you just care too much," and I thought, what would caring too much look like in a world with such need?
Yes.
I don't even. What does that mean? I mean, I feel like I need to care more. What are you talking about?
They may be talking about getting taken advantage of.
Yeah.
We've all been in situations where, like an empty peg, we're trying to loan your friend money, and they just take money up. So that's the discerning compassion. But that's not being too caring. That's being foolish. I don't want to be judgmental. You're not really helping. If you keep loaning somebody money, even though they go out and spend it on drugs, are you really helping?
Right.
And it doesn't mean you wouldn't loan somebody money if they needed it. Maybe that's what they meant. But there's never too much love.
Oh yeah. Well, I just always try to confront people's thinking to show them that they can see it a different way, because I know when you do that, I'm not like attacking them. I'm just challenging their ideas and showing them a different way to see it. Because I know a lot of times we write narratives, like narrative therapy. You write narratives and then we just keep regurgitating the same narrative. And the biggest problem I see in that, even if it's true, do we grow from that? I don't think so.
You tell your same story, like in the old days of psychoanalysis, you tell some story. But you seem like you have a tremendous amount of emotional freedom.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure you've worked at that. But
20 years of counseling. Yeah, for anyone listening, not only do I have a lot of experience and have read a lot of stuff, I had 20 years of counseling to get a lot of my emotional help. I mean, I'm not saying that I just all on my own, just
Right.
some kind of guru master. No, I had a lot of help by people, especially to my wife. And my wife is real emotional. She doesn't like to be around people. She has a lot of anxieties and stress. But really, it helped me get a lot of my own self-compassion by looking at her, looking at how much she reacted, and I thought, wow. I feel a lot of, sadness that she feels such stress. Instead of looking at it and just seeing the reactions, I started looking at who was the one reacting, and then why, and then how does it feel. I started getting to more empathy. How do other people feel in their minds?
That's it. And we can't do this back to a relational. My wife is great at telling me when to stop complaining. My wife is great at telling me you don't have it so bad. I used to get into a book feeling sorry for myself. After the book was published, I was frustrated. People were, buying it. She looked at me and said, "You're lucky to only write a book. You got a roof for it." She's good like that.
Yeah.
So, and I go to a therapist periodically. Always tells me the truth. If I have any issues with my wife, she always takes my wife's side, which is great. Not that she just points out another point of view. So we need people. And I really feel very strongly. One of the things I so much admire about you is you have the courage to give people guidance and wisdom.
Yes.
When we can minister to each other, we can lighten each other in a gentle, caring, non-judgmental, non-angry way.
Yes.
One of the things in my book, when you get to know me, I have an older daughter who's 30 who has a form of autism called Rett syndrome. She's limiting language. She's pretty healthy. Right. I'm on an international campaign to eliminate the words stupid, dumb, idiot, moron, and retarded. So those words convey to people that are smart and better like my daughter.
Yes.
I don't go around and hit people over the head when we use those words. But I said, this is my perspective, and I appreciate you use those words.
Right. I'm
not enlightened on everything in the same way. But I think we can all, and again, in a gentle, kind way, there's too much gotcha in today's society. And sometimes people deserve to be, if they're really racist or whatever.
Well, yeah. That's right, exactly. Like everyone always is surprised at how I act with certain people. But I always tell it's not really as amazing when you understand me. I want to be vulnerable, with people that are vulnerable. I want to protect people that are vulnerable. But let me tell you what, I am a champion to go defend against tyrants because I want to go make anyone who's oppressive, feel challenged, at least that they.
You can do that in a simple, even caring way.
Oh, absolutely.
So my point is, we all have a responsibility to each other. So self-compassion isn't just sitting there making a perfect, tending your own garden. It could be. Now, if somebody chooses to be self, somebody gets a farm in the woods, they take great care of themselves, they love themselves, and they're never involved with anybody else, I don't judge them for that. But I would say they're missing out on one of the best things in life. Because to be giving and helpful and loving, and I love to give people copies of my book. I engage people in conversation.
Yeah.
It just feels so good. I lose a lot of money. I'm not looking to make any money on this thing, right? So it's a great feeling. We deny ourselves that privilege and that opportunity. But you seem like you do have freedom, and however you got there, it's like hallelujah. You seem like you have a lot of emotional. That's great.
Well, I have a lot of emotional intelligence because of my experience. I think that when I always tell people that I have experienced the lash of unkindness in such an extreme way. I'm very aware of the needs of others that are also being persecuted. My heart goes out to them. I know what it's like to feel like you don't have your dignity, that it's not even yours to begin with, that you have no rights to yourself, and that you have, no value and you're no compassion. Because, I first was the abused thing, then I became the aggressor. Because of what happened to me, and it was, how did I stop that?
Bullied, or just, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well, was I bullied? Is that what you asked? Or did I bully? Well, I became extreme. I don't want to go into all the things I did, but I never hurt women. But I would just do random acts of violence, pretty much against men. Like one time, I was smoking dope, and I just felt like hurting someone. I just went outside my house. I was like about 15. I went across the street. Some guy was just standing at the bus stop, and I just started punching him in the back of the head for no reason, just random violence. I think back. That's why people think like now I'm so kind. Yeah, well, I've been on both sides. I mean, I understand what it's like to be a victim, and I've done things that I'm ashamed of as a persecutor, and it's wrong. I feel bad. I mean, I can't change my past, but see, I'm not my past. I can be
Exactly.
my present right now. I can change who I am right now. I can be caring, thoughtful right now. I can be kind right now. And I can make a difference right now. And that's why, to me, I have no more shame about looking weak. I have people say, "Oh, were you gay?" I'm not gay, but I don't care if they say I don't. Gay people are great, so whatever. But I mean, I'm not longer ashamed to be weak or be looked down. Or, you know what? Pushing kindness is too important. It did to me. That
Part of
doesn't.
self-compassion is being vulnerable. Sorry to cut you off
Yeah,
there, but Brene Brown, Daring Greatly, that being vulnerable thing. People love us for our vulnerabilities as long as we don't want to overdo it and always talk about ourselves.
right. Yeah, exactly.
All we did is sob. I mean, we get a little tired, although I wouldn't judge anybody if they had trauma. But when we're peaceful on the inside, our ego isn't wrapped in the biggest perfect person.
Right.
And we admire people that show their vulnerabilities. And I say to my clients, who always want, a lot of my clients want to be perfect. You know, that's the whole perfectionism thing. And I say to them, okay, so you achieve perfection. Who's going to want to be around you? People will avoid you. Have any problems in your life?
Yeah.
You got everything? Who's going to want to be around you? You'll just reflect back to them their inadequacies. So we love each other for our vulnerabilities. It's our humanity. Brene Brown and many other people have written about shame. And this is harder for men because we have the whole man code thing, the whole be tough thing. This is why we die 8 years old from your partner. And I tell you, I just wrote a blog about shame. I'm convinced most men, a lot of men are drowning in shame because of the man code, because they feel they don't measure up. But then a lot of times, as you say, when we show our humanity, we're shamed for that. I can't tell you how many my male clients say to me very directly, in my family, they want me to be heroic, tough, and strong, and bring home the bacon in these traditional situations. And they also tell me, oh, get in touch with your vulnerable side. Get in touch with the human side. But then they break down and cry, and they're told to buck up, be a man.
Exactly.
Men are in this. A lot of men live their lives with the quiet desperation that Freud talked about. Other people are traumatized. We really get mixed messages. And look at all the societal ways in which we ridicule men that aren't like tough and manly enough.
Oh, I totally agree.
In my day, I mean, men turn to alcohol and affairs, and all the destructive things men do, because we can't be. I have this concept called integrity. I love the fact you say integrity. Men being, we're fierce gentlemen. We're fighting for causes. We can be vulnerable. We can protect people that need to be protected.
Yes.
We can be strong when we need to be strong.
Yes.
You know, I think Bob is very much like this. But we can be vulnerable. We don't have to be heroes all the time. But men are in a squeeze. Men are suffering.
Yeah, I just want to make one point. When you said we're not heroes all the time, I think that being vulnerable is being a hero to me. Well, that is to me. I was saying being vulnerable to me is being a hero. It's to me being vulnerable sometimes is some of the most heroic things that you can do because at a time when it's needed. Because
you're exactly right.
Yeah, because I mean I feel like that we shame the helping to the point that we don't even allow helping to be called heroes. Come on. All your heroes have to hold a gun. You need some new heroes.
Right. I agree with you. We can model it with my clients. I try to keep it about them. I share some of my vulnerabilities or I have tripped up in life. And when I ask my clients when they're finished therapy, some people just drop out and don't come back and they get better, whatever, that's fine. But for the people that complete therapy, I say to them, what did you get from this? They always say two things at least. Sometimes they say other things. They say, you accepted me as I was. Right. I didn't judge them. I heard their story. And second of all,
that's a hero.
They say, share your humanity. So they don't want some perfect person.
Right.
That has to be about their needs and not mine. And it's hard if I'm going through the time of my life. But to be human, to show your vulnerabilities, it frees all of us.
I agree.
It's all of us. You know, but I love your concept of integrity because it's about values, about how we live our life. And if men can just stick to that, just to be strong in the ways we need to be vulnerable, it's sobering.
It's healthy. It's healthy for our psyche. It's healthy for our humanity. It's healthy for human flourishing. Human betterment cannot happen without kindness. You just can't. And I agree with you. The kindness, though, don't let it be limited to just what you do for others. It should be kindness to oneself. I absolutely agree. And I also I also wanted to bring up the fact that you talked about appreciating what you already have. And that reminds me, like I said, about the here and now. I try to live in the here and now and be grateful for what I have in the here and now. Not just because I think of people like they think about the past. Oh, I used to have, and oh, I wish to have in the future. But they're not staying in the here and now, the present. And some of the things you say too about it sounds like either positive psychology stuff also, or it sounds like to me like Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It doesn't mean we don't hold people accountable. But when we're in the moment, that's it. I mean, I'm really totally in the power of now. And he's really right. When we let go of worries about the future, regrets about the past, life goes to there's a flow. And this is part of the authentic self stuff. When I trust my gut, when I trust my inner wisdom, to know I'm never wrong. When I get caught up in my head and I'm controlling or anxious or reactive or ruminating or whatever, I'm not my best self.
Right.
I love the concept of trusting our deepest self. I love the concept of just going with that flow.
Right, because I think, like you were saying, when you do that, then the benefit activates in the world. Because when a person fills himself up with healthiness inside, to me, you can see it because it starts becoming their thinking, their behaviors. I mean, it's like if you see a bunch of behaviors of oppression or violence, you're not generally going to find a person with a wellspring of joy and love inside. I mean, it's not correlative to me.
Nazis ever look happy? They're miserable. Happy people don't behave like that.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. That's why I really appreciate your book on achieving, self-compassion and giving yourself the gifts of happiness and inner peace. I think that those are the gifts that all humanity needs, to have, the happiness and inner peace. And I think that when we are at that place, and I think that your book is great because it's not saying the inner peace once the world has peace, because then it would feel like, well, maybe that's kind of hopeless. but there is hope.
Without a doubt, and a large some of it is the choosing happiness. But I would say to somebody who just suffered severe trauma, be happy. I worked with a couple years ago. Their son had died in a car accident. It would be cruel to say, well, just be happy.
Right.
They need to grieve their trauma. They need to go to a therapist who hears them. Because trauma sticks to our soul till we share it, without a doubt. But the flip side is we really do have a choice. And I mentioned my daughter earlier who has this form of autism. We went to a program up in Massachusetts called the Archaeology that works with families with kids with autism. And they changed my life with a simple question. We were sort of in despair for her future. She wasn't eye contact, she lived independently. It was very hard. And they asked us, what are you afraid would happen if you weren't unhappy about your situation? And the question blew me away because it never occurred to me I had a choice. I assumed you have a child with special needs. I grew up in a family to be smart with everything. My dad is perfect. But what I found, I realized in that moment, my unhappiness wasn't helping anybody. And I think I said to the woman, well, maybe if I wasn't unhappy, I wouldn't take good care of her. She smiled at me. She said, keep taking care of her. Choose happiness. I could have flown home. It was amazing. I got home. I had all this energy. They taught us to do a home-based treatment program, and we worked with her many hours a day. And my mom came over. She said, you look like the same person, but you're not. And so since then, I've figured, if I can figure out how to choose happiness, in that middle of that situation, Viktor Frankl, in the middle of Auschwitz, said the only thing the Nazis couldn't take away from him was his peace of mind. I'm not comparing my situation to his. But I think along with everything you talked about, I often ask myself, what am I afraid would happen if I let go of my frustration or my anger?
Right.
Or whatever it is. Our unhappiness doesn't help anybody. And people have said to me over the years, how can you be so happy? You have a child with special needs. And they're trying to be supportive. It's also not that hard. She's easy to take care of. She's delightful. She's my soulmate. She's taught me a lot of wonderful lessons in the world. I don't begrudge taking care of her a minute. So it's not, I think it'd be harder if she was running away or using drugs. It's not the most difficult. But I think it is possible to choose happiness. It's not always the jumping around gleefully happiness. It just can be an inner peace.
Yeah, I agree.
We can all sit in a traffic jam and find inner peace. People don't realize they have that choice. But it's interesting, a real flow of this conversation seems to be the power of individual choices.
Oh, yes.
Which comes from. But it's not always cognitive intellectual. A lot of times it's just trusting her.
Well, yeah. Well, I think that the first thing we are is not cognitive intellectual. I mean, I thoroughly understand that. I mean, neurology shows that there's no state of the mind be awake that it's not emoting.
Right.
Yeah, period. I mean, so even when we're rational, we're still emotional. There is no I'm not emotional. But that for me is a real, like your self-compassionate. Okay. So when I feel emotions like all the time, and a lot of them are not rational, that's okay. I'll just be human.
That's it. That's exactly it. The example I give in my book is I worked with a woman whose son actually had died in a car accident, but she always saw herself as a strong person. You can do anything. You can be anything. And people that are vulnerable are weak. But she had all this anger and rage and upsetness. But she judged herself. And I looked at her, can you just accept all the emotions? You're human. Your son died. Stop judging yourself. It's okay to be horrible. It doesn't mean she wasn't strong in other ways. So I'm so glad you said that. Because a real key of the mindfulness is self-compassion. Except, again, it doesn't give us license to go out and do something wrong or hurtful or mean or misogynistic or whatever. But it's so freeing just to say to ourselves, okay, so you felt it, so what? But I suggest to my clients, they imagine they're like a screen door in the screen. Let their emotions pass through them. This is the mindfulness. Feel it, pass through it. Don't get stuck. Don't ruminate on it. We're humans. We're going to feel some stuff. And whether it's from our amygdala fight flight or whether we create it, who knows? Feel it and move on. When we don't judge it, we can deal with it. We're not afraid of it.
Well, speaking of the amygdala,
feel that we block it.
Yeah, speaking of the amygdala, I also wanted to tell people that I think that people only think that we have an activating response to a stimuli as fight or flight, but that's actually not accurate. We also have tend and befriend. Now, women use this more often, and men only generally tend to use it, or it's societally okay to use it during war or extreme events, and they bond as buddies or whatever. But really, men need to try to adapt that more of their life, not only use it for the most extreme things. I mean, it's a strategy women use all the time. Tend and befriend.
What's the part of the brain you're talking about? I'm sorry.
The amygdala. So the amygdala has two responses, in a sense, fight or flight or tend and befriend. Everyone always talks about. So one is, in a sense, the negative, fight or flight. The other one is positive, tending, like caring, and befriending, trying to find friends in the world. So I'm saying is that when we realize, for me, when we realize that we don't just have fight or flight as an option, we also have tend and befriend. For me, to be aware of that allows me to go, okay, so my response doesn't have to be just violence or running. It can actually be in the moment trying to negotiate, in the moment trying to be friends. And for me, what I realized is I want to have eyes of love, because eyes of love always find a friend, where eyes of hate will always find a victim.
And I need to. My daughter's bus is coming a little bit. Can we pick up on this conversation?
Or we can have another. We can have another conversation on another topic. I just wanted to be on your book. So could you go ahead and do you have a picture of your book you can show us?
I have a picture of my book. Hold on a second.
Yay!
Self-Compassion. It's on Amazon. I have a website.
Raise it up a little bit. A little higher. No, higher. Up in the air. There you go. Yeah, right there. Or no, well, that. Yeah.
I have a website, www.achievingselfcompassion.com. I do coaching. I have a newsletter. I have some blogs, and I love to hear from people about their experiences with the book. So I'd love to be helpful to people any way I can. And this book has provided me an opportunity to spread my passion.
Wonderful. And I appreciate your time, and we'll definitely have another talk, because I love talking about all this stuff. But next talk will be, yeah.
Talk today if you want, or you want to call it quits today if you talk another time.
We could talk again today. That's fine. Yeah.
Well, I can give you a call, and I'm getting my daughter off the bus. I can call you back maybe in 20 minutes or so.
Sure.
Or you want to do 4 o'clock?
Yeah, 4 o'clock is better. Give me a chance. Yeah, but we'll do another talk. Definitely.
That would be great. I mean, my daughter's dust isn't here. I just need to end it.
So yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So can we have our talk on kindness? That's really something I really like.
Well, it seems like you really living this stuff out, and you seem very free of spirit.
Yes.
But you're also holding people. It's a great combination.
Thank you.
It's a great combination. I mean, Gandhi didn't lay down and let people walk all over him. Martin Luther, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes.
They're not in power.
They were fighting. They were the show that you can do peaceful activism and thoughtful activism. I don't just want to be abusive. I want to make a difference in the world. And
this is awesome. I'll call you back about 10 or 4.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
Have a great day.
I really appreciate it.